Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, joined once again with Dale, continuing our Disney 100 Years of Wonder retrospective. Number 55 today. Probably the last hurrah for me in terms of the ones that I like. We're up to Moana. And this was an interesting one because, I mean, we teed this up last week. You had never seen this one before today. I assuming did you watch it today or was it? Yeah.
It
And
finished about 10 minutes ago.
timed it to perfection. And I've been really, really wanting to get your opinions on this because I mentioned last week that this is probably, in terms of like modern era Disney, if we're counting sort of Tangled onwards, this is probably my top three favorites, I would say. And yeah, I've always enjoyed this one, the music, the look of it, and everything. And you've been wanting to watch this a few times, a little bit prematurely, and you was like, no, I'm going to wait until we get to that week where we do Moana and I'm going to watch it for the first time then. So a lot of this is probably just going to be me thinking like, and what did you think to this bit? And what did you think to this character? And what did you think of this song? So yeah.
I think the music was, what's the word? Stellar.
Wow.
The music was, I do genuinely believe the music was probably one of the best in a long time for Disney. It makes, I mean, I really love Frozen, like I said, but it makes the music of Frozen, like, I step back and I think, you know what, it's either on par or maybe that little bit better. I think Frozen has the better songs are better, like the great songs are better, but this has overall the better soundtrack.
Yeah, and I think it's similar to Frozen. Actually, it follows that Broadway style again, kind of going with the Disney Renaissance feel. This is almost like a, what would you call it? Do you call it like a new Renaissance? I think there is a term for sort of like Tangled onwards, where Disney kind of came into their modern era, sort of like a modern equivalent, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of the Disney Renaissance. And I do think the ones that have the music like that are always tend to be the standout ones. It feels more typical Disney with that song structure.
It's like, I know, for instance, like the songs in Van Halen's 5150, you were like, those are the great ones, but overall I think Van Halen 1 has the best album overall.
Love it.
Got it in early.
There's going to be another one. I guarantee there'll be another one before the end. We've got a comment from Brian Emery who says, this is a good movie and I have not seen Moana 2 yet. I hope it's good. Yeah, I actually haven't watched it either. I'm kind of doing what you were doing with this one, in that I'm going to try and watch it at the end of the retrospective. It'll be on Disney Plus in like 2 weeks because stuff seems to come to streaming really, really quickly nowadays, much sooner than it did back in the day. So yeah, I'm going to get round to that. I've heard sort of mixed negative things on the movie, that it's quite forgettable. I guess we'll find out when we get to it. But it is another Disney sequel, isn't it? It's interesting about this film, kind of a little bit of a coincidence, I suppose. This is the first Disney film since 2002 where two Disney animated classics were released in the same year. So Zootopia and Moana both released in 2016. You had Zootopia released in sort of like the February-March kind of time, and this one had the November slot. So in 2002, the last two Disney films that were released in the same year as each other were Lilo and Stitch and Treasure Planet, the latter of which was directed by the same two guys who did Moana. So that's kind of like a happy little coincidence there. This won 2 Academy Awards. It won one for Best Animated Feature, probably unsurprisingly, and Best Original Song for How Far I'll Go, which we'll get to our favorite songs later on, but that probably is the standout. It's sort of like the Let It Go equivalent of this film, if you're going to compare it to Frozen. I guess sort of, could you just knock my volume down a little bit? I'm just getting that feedback just a tiny little bit. That's perfect. Yeah, cool, that's gone. First time I watched this film, I'll hand over to you, but it was today. Did you know much about this film actually before going in? Like, what was your kind of like your base knowledge on this film?
I knew that there was water and the rock, and his name was Maui, and he was Moana. Like, I didn't know loads about it because I kind of as I've gotten older, what I do now is if I know, it goes with games as well and stuff, like if I know I'm gonna like it, I kind of steer clear of a lot of stuff, because the idea of trailers and stuff is to get you to go, oh, it makes me want to watch it. But if I already know I'm gonna watch it or I'm gonna play it, I'm like, well, I don't need to watch the trailers then. I'll just be really surprised. The only exception is Kingdom Hearts. I have to I have to watch the trailers. I have to, which is annoying because they're the ones that they reveal worlds, and you think I'd feel like, no, I'd want it to be a surprise. But no, it's like yeah, because I knew I was going to watch it because it's obviously a Disney classic. And I was like, I know I was going to get to it at some point. I didn't delve too much into it because to me, I was like, well, if I'm going to watch it, I'd rather go in as blind as possible. But yeah, I knew there was, as I say, Maui. I knew that he was a demigod. I knew he was a shapeshifter, which I say I knew he was I did, but I was reminded about it in the movie. I was like, oh yeah, he is, isn't he? So like, but I knew the little bits. I didn't know the exact things and I knew about the Wayfinder. I knew essentially what it was. And the weird thing about this movie is as well, like watching it, it's not like it's a quest movie, you know. It's not a kind of a movie where you think, oh, but then this happens, oh, and it'll spoil it. It's just a big awesome quest that they go on, which is great. But yeah, I try to keep away from too many fine details.
Yeah, that's kind of cool though that you went into this movie relatively cold then, like on the story and sort of, you know, what the main driving plot of it is. For me, I went to see this when it came out. I think I was on a date at the time, actually. I think we had a cinema date, which probably isn't a good idea to go on a date to the cinema where you're in a, you know, just watching a film in silence for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It never went past the first date anyway. It's fine.
Imagine the people that went to see 50 Shades of Grey as a first date.
I know, yeah.
That was definitely a thing.
But no, I went to see Moana on the big screen and kind of just like instantly fell in love with it. There was I always talk about Disney chills. There's moment. It's not just Disney, but you know, animation in general, where you just see a beautiful piece of animation, like whether it's the music coupled with the imagery, whatever it is, and you get that goosebump feeling. I get it with quite a lot of films, usually like in epic moments or when the music really hits me. And this film has plenty of those moments. I was kind of just blown away by the imagery, the water, and we'll talk about the animation later, but you just see the leaps and bounds that the animation's coming on in the fine details and everything. It does fit that similar structure. There's a lot of similarities, I'd say, to possibly like something like Little Mermaid, I think, also directed by the same people. You kind of have that like overbearing father figure, and you have Ariel who wants to be on land, and you've got the opposite with Moana when she wants. It's kind of like Little Mermaid too, where her daughter really wants to go to the ocean and the water. You got the animal sidekicks in there, the music that punctuates the film. I think the one thing that this film kind of lacks is on the villain front, but it does tie into the plot kind of effectively.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's kind of like the thing is you don't always need a Jafar or whatever to make a good movie, and this movie kind of shows that. Whereas, like for instance, I know obviously I do love Frozen, but Frozen's villain is a problem in the sense of like because obviously it's near the end and it's like you said before, you don't realize he's like there's no lead up to it at all. Whereas this, I think it works within the movie really well.
It is another villain switcheroo, though, isn't it? In many ways, kind of, but it's done in a different way. It's not so much like it's the good guy switch to the bad guy. It's almost that flipped on its head. It's the bad guy, which big twist. It's actually Tafiti the whole time, and she was corrupted when her heart was removed. Just looking at that background though of Takar. I really like the design of Takar, though. I'm a sucker for like giant lava, demonic, satanic monsters. Like the Balrog from the Lord of the Rings is fucking great. But doesn't it look like it's got the face of Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy?
It does. I did think that. I was like, this looks familiar.
Just looking at it there, I'm like, oh my god, it's almost 1-to-1. It's like uncanny between the two. But that aside with the villain, as I say, I think it functions for the plot, and it is a very simple plot in many ways. You know, a film doesn't have to be needlessly complicated. You get that very effective prologue at the beginning. Basically, essentially, corruption is coming to the land. Fish, they can't fish. Their coconuts are going bad. Their island is decaying. Moana has to go on this quest to restore the heart of Tafiti to bring prosperity and goodness back to the land. It's a very traditional fairy tale story, which I love. And then it's kind of like, I won't say like a video game fetch quest, but it's like, right, we've acquired Maui, but before we can go here, we've got to get his hook. And to get his hook, we've got to go to the underworld, and we find his hook, and then we kill the final boss.
It is a very, that's basically what it is in movie form. Because if you were to make a straight up, you remember when they did video game movies? Yeah. movie, video games, whatever it's called. But you know what I mean? When they did that, you know, a shot for shot thing, fair enough. But like, I think this is the closest to actually just being a movie version, which I think it works really well because in a lot of ways, like you said, it's a fetch quest. It is literally just they go on adventures. They go on an adventure. They do their thing because they would need to collect something, and it's and and that's what makes it great. It's just a fun watch, and it's something I would go back to. Obviously, after we do this retrospective, a few months afterwards, but I would definitely go back to it because it's just a fun watch, and I wouldn't say like it's a movie where it's not a clear plot. I wouldn't say that's the case, but it's a very you can just watch it for the visuals and the comedy, and it's just a fetch quest, and you go, "What happened?" You're like, "Oh, they needed to get this, and they went there." Like you know what I mean? It's that kind of movie, which I think that's great as well because, like you said, you don't need a complex plot to be a good movie. Sometimes simplistic works, and this is what this is.
Yeah, well, it's a classic hero's journey story, which I'm always a sucker for. And if you look at the integral parts of it, there's a lot of character tropes and story tropes that we've come to know before. Most notably, for example, like the grandmother character, it's the wise old sage character, it's the one that propels them on the quest. That character usually dies at some point in the plot as well, so the character's kind of thrust out into the world on their own. They need to learn to fend for themselves. And what I like about this, watching it again, is that Moana isn't perfect from the beginning. She is completely out of her depth. She doesn't know how to sail. She gets Maui, but she's kind of working it out as she goes along. And she fails, time and time again.
He's basically your guide, isn't he? Like you play as her in a game, and then it's like, now you can learn how to do this. Let me show you. Press the X button. Like he is that guy. It's great.
But it's great just to see her develop across the film, and ultimately it's a quest for her, like her identity, really, to see what her place is in the world. Again, it's a story trope that's been done kind of to death with Disney films, but it's been done to death for a reason. It works, and it makes for a satisfying film. So yeah, I really like the character mark. We'll go into the characters in just a second. There's not a whole lot to say on the backstory of this one, so. After the directors finished Princess and the Frog, they were actually looking to adapt a Terry Pratchett book called Mort. Now, I don't know if that was for Disney or if that was like a side animation project they were working on, but they were struggling to acquire the proper film rights to it and everything like that. So instead, they pitched 3 ideas, one of which was based on Polynesian mythology because one of the directors had been reading up about it, was really fascinated on it. So they went on various research trips to Fiji, Samoa, Tahiti. They spoke to a lot of people there, and I think they brought a lot of people of Polynesian culture into the story drafting stage as well, so they could keep it as faithful and as respectful, I guess, as you can say, to that kind of mythology. The film went through various different drafts. There's like 7 people credited on the story for this thing as well, which sounds insane because, as we said, like the story itself is really dead basic. So I'm guessing these are all people that have had a hand in it. Maybe they write a draft of the script, pass it on to someone else, and it keeps developing over the course of years. Taika Waititi was apparently the original one who wrote the screenplay for it. Thor Ragnarok, and have you seen like What We Do in the Shadows, that vampire film?
That was a shit film.
I hate Taika Waititi personally. I think people have kind of wised up to his shtick. I did like the oh god, what was it called? With Scarlett Johansson, it was set in World War II during the Holocaust, which sounds like a weird thing to say you love. What was it called? What was that film? Jojo Rabbit. That was a good film. That was very good. And that was sort of directed and written by him. But for me, like his comedy antics just don't work for me. But apparently, from all the different story drafts, his original idea was something like Moana was like the sole daughter, and she had 5 or 6 brothers, and it was more or less a story about gender, which seems like something that Disney would do nowadays. Maybe that's the plot to Moana 2. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but it looks like she just has one sister in that film. And then there was a draft that was going to focus more on Maui, then a draft where it was going to focus more on her father, and it was going to be he was lost at sea, and it was a quest to try and reclaim him and find him and bring him home. a bit of that kind of found its way into the flashback where he goes out with his friend and his friend drowns and everything like that. So it just kind of developed naturally, as most Disney films do, to be honest, until the final product that we got. Let's talk more about characters now. Let's start at Moana. Let's start at the titular character. What did you think to Moana?
I liked her as a character. At no point was she annoying. At no, like, she was always, like, even when, like, you know, when you get her as a kid as well, she was she started off as that kind of, she was adventurous, but like, because the thing about child characters, like, I'm thinking, like, you know, when she was a kid and, you know, where the water moves and she finds like the shell and all that kind of, like, I'm thinking back to that. And when you get characters like that, a lot of the time people find them annoying. Like, they find their tropes quite annoying, and she wasn't. She was great. She was fun, and then when she developed through the story, you really saw how she kind of, maybe not. I wouldn't. I mean, she did change, but you know what I mean. How she basically, she became friends with Maui. How she was just sort of, she was discovering. It was like, you know, she was discovering the world. You were discovering the world with her. You know, she was like, okay, what's happening? You know, and then she wasn't sure about him either, and it was that kind of, because I think we touched upon this. Was it last week, the week before? How you know, it's like when you play video game stuff, like, you are immersed in that because you're discovering it along with the character.
Yeah,
and I think that's what made her great. She was quite relatable in that sense. It all felt like every question you had, she had, and it was like, okay, cool. Like, you felt like, you know, she was moving along a natural path rather than some stupid kind of like, oh, I know this. I mean, have you ever seen Monster House?
no, I know which film you're talking about, but no, I never watched it.
So basically, what's that thing called that dangles at the back of your throat? Uvula?
Yeah.
Right. So there's this, and I remember this perfectly because it was weird to me. So in Monster House, they're all like kids or whatever, and it's a house, obviously it's a monster, and it's got this chandelier that dangles, and it's obviously represents uvula, and they're kids, and they're like, oh, it's the uvula, and I'm like, how the fuck do they know that? They're fucking kids, like. And at no point did you feel like that with Moana. There was no point where it was like, what are you talking about? It was, you know, it was, like I say, you were discovering it with her, and she felt, you know, in her place. And her singing voice is amazing.
Yes.
I thought she was great. She, like I say, she is a reason I would come back to this movie. I could watch her sing and, you know, do her thing, like, you know, many times, because I think she's a strong character. I think she's animated perfectly as well. I know that's not her as a character, but I think she's animated really well. Like, the detail when it comes to, without sounding weird, when it comes to, like, when she's walking along the sand, you see her feet walk along the sand. I say without sounding weird, but you know what I mean? Like, she's like walking on the sand, like, you can just see like the detail that's put into it. And I think there was a lot put into her, and I think she's a great protagonist for a story.
Yeah, the animations are like the hair as well. That goes for all the characters, but it's just it's remarkable feat of animation, to be sure. I love her determination, and I mean, I've watched this film a whole bunch of times, but it's been quite a while since I last watched it, so it was nice to go back to watching this one again. But she almost reminds me of almost like a Mulan character, where, you know, she's in this society, she has her place, but there is that like inner fire, that inner determination, and throughout the course of the film, she proves herself and achieves it, but in a much sort of like believable way. It's like a staggered rise to her strength and identity, but it's all there. And there are moments of vulnerability. There are moments where she just like breaks down and says, like, I can't do this. Like, fine. There's that pivotal moment towards the end where she's, you know, choose someone else. I'm not worthy, kind of thing. And then, but she can't bring herself to do it because she's got that determination. She's got that fire. I love the personality that Al-Li'i, I think that's how you pronounce her name, brings to the character. Personality and mannerisms, her quirkiness. She is a fun character. And I guess that's why I'm kind of excited to see the sequel, because I want to see more of Moana's character and how she develops. I'm cautiously optimistic for it. I know it's not going to be as good as this one. I'm prepared for that. But
a sequel is never as good as the original. I fucking hate sequels.
Rescuers Down Under is the only exception to that rule.
That I agree. That's 100%. The first one didn't count. I feel like the Rescuers Down Under was their way of going, let's try that again.
One thing that kind of strikes me with this film, and I was trying to find more information on it, and I couldn't find it, in all honesty. It's probably an article there somewhere. There are moments, certainly in the first act, where I'm like, I can imagine this was part of a slightly different structure. And I remember the trailers for this thing, even the poster for this thing. You've got the pig character Pua, and they were really pushing these two animal sidekicks. You had Hey the rooster, and you had Pua the pig, and the pig was everywhere in the trailers and the marketing and everything like that. And the pig's maybe in it for like 5 or 10 minutes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's out of the
true.
film. And I
Yeah.
do wonder if, as the story was developing, they were like, maybe one animal sidekick's enough for this film. Maybe we can't have the pig surviving all of this stuff or tagging along. I know the pig's in the sequel a lot more by the looks of it, but I thought that was weird. So you can almost see maybe where they went in and chopped out a few characters.
It's weird because the pig, you know, not Pua. What's his
Pua.
name? Pua. Same thing. You know, but anyway, Pua. Like he's you know, obviously in the sequel a lot more, and to me that also speaks volumes of is it going to be that great, because every movie seems to have a cuddly little cute character because marketing,
Disney.
they sell soft toys.
Yeah.
And the fact that they put more emphasis on that character kind of says to me the fact that they needed to put emphasis. I mean, I don't know, I've not seen it, but it just, I don't know, it just says to me maybe.
And there's
remember when that wasn't a thing so Lightyear, right? They had Socks, the little cat, that was pushed as a marketing, everyone bought a cuddly toy kind of thing. Toy Story, what was the little cuddly Toy Story? There wasn't one. I mean, they were all toys, but there's no little mascot. You know, when you think back to,
yes, it was the alien. Maybe would you say the aliens?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always like a little, because when you think like Snow White, there's obviously the dwarves, but is there the number one, the little mascot? Like, it's not needed, is my point. And the fact that they're really pushing it on a story we've already got, I don't know, it just says to me, is it going to be that great?
Yeah, maybe. Or I guess we'll find out in a month or so, won't we? Once we get to it, probably 2. Is it 2 months? 1 month? Can't remember. We haven't got that many to go. Actually, we're almost. We're sort of in the twilight years of this retrospective.
We're in the twilight zone.
We are, and there's one other bit with the story as well, which this is me just completely just coming up with this at the top of my head. But I've always thought this ever since I watched the film. Usually, the ending song is a reprise of what the opening song was. You think of Lion King, you open with Circle of Life, you get to the end, that song kicks back in again. Same with, I'm pretty sure, like Little Mermaid, you get the fanfare of Part of Your World, and you get a reprise of that. It's always the beginning song is bookended as some kind of reprise at the end. Can you remember which song gets a reprise at the end of this film?
It's that one with the what's the song called?
We Know the Way, and it's like the Voyaging song, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really good, rousing song. Now, can you remember where the first iteration of that song comes in this film?
In it where just before she meets Maui?
Well, she goes into, her grandmother leads her to this cave that's been sort of cut off on the island, and it's where they've stored all the boats. And she hits the drums, and she has this flashback, and she has this epiphany that they were once voyagers. We get this weird kind of flashback song number with We Know the Way, and it almost feels like an establishment. It's like, we are voyagers, we're setting the scene, this is the culture that we're in, we're voyagers. They get to the island, and it shows them getting to Motunui by the looks of it, or them arriving on that island originally. And I've always wondered, was that originally meant to be the beginning of the film? You were going to open with that song, and it sets up the culture, as I just said, and, you know, the history of everything, and then you bookend it with that same song at the very end. I don't know, that's just me guessing, but it feels like maybe there was some shuffling around with the structure, perhaps. And they put that prologue in at the beginning. There's 2 writers that are credited with completely adding, you know, huge amounts of emotional depth to the story and changing the story and adding bits in to flesh it out a bit more. That's Aaron and Jordan Candle, and they came up with the prologue, the Cave of the Wayfinders, the Cockamora, the coconut characters, and developing the core emotional relationship between Maui and Moana. So I'm wondering if things got chopped and changed. Maybe I get the impression of that when I watched the first act, but once we're past that, it seems like it's pretty much just a straight narrative at that point. What did you think to the Cockamora, the Mad Max Fury Road reference? Did you get that?
Do you know what? This is another thing I've never watched a Mad Max movie. This is another,
okay.
This is another thing I haven't done, like James Bond.
So yeah, you have. I was thinking of maybe doing that, but I've already done 2 James Bond retrospectives now, one on my old channel and one on this channel. But
Do you know, I'm fine with never watching James Bond. It doesn't
no,
appeal to me. It does
dude,
not
it
appeal to me.
believe me, a few years ago it didn't to me either, and then I watched them, and now I'm hooked. There's good and bad ones, obviously, but maybe. But yeah, Mad Max Fury Road came out in 2015, won a whole bunch of Oscars. Visually, it was really kind of different and original and crazy and zany. And as soon as it got to the Kakamora scene, I was like, "That's Mad Max." Even in like the score itself, they have like sort of plays on the music from that. You have them like banging the drums and them sort of throwing like javelins like pirates into the ship that they're about to take down, or the vehicle that they're about to take down. You got like a king one as well that controls them all. So I thought that was a cool reference. I like that scene. It's a fun visual action scene in that bit. Let's talk about Maui then. We're going to be
Do you know
getting a
what?
live action depiction of this in a couple of years.
I
Again, less than,
hate
well, it's like 10 years old. The film's 10 years old and we're
I
already getting a live
I
action
hate that.
adaptation.
I hate that because I mean, to make a remake, there has to be a level of like it has to warrant it. Like
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot game got a remake because it was how long? And I mean, I played the original Crash Bandicoot obviously when it came like years ago, but I also played the original Crash Bandicoot about 2 years before the remake came out as well. So the point, like, you can play it, but it's also because it was '90s game. It's kind of marketed towards like when you're a kid and you play this. Well, now you're an adult and you have adult money. You can buy it again. Like, there's reasons for them doing things. Is my point. But and Disney live action like Cinderella, I feel like there was a reason for it. It was a long time ago, and it was like it was a bit different. But now it's just a point where it's like, well, why? The movie's less than 10 years old. Like, where do you know what I mean? It's going to be a shot-for-shot remake. It's got the fucking Rock who does the voice anyway. It's like, but I'll just watch the anime. I saw the animated version. Oh, now you can watch the live action. And then you'll get to the end of it's almost 2 hours, this movie. It's probably the longest one so far, isn't it? But you'll get to the end of, the 2 hour length and you'll be like, I just did that. You know what I mean? But Maui as a character, I mean, I hate the fact that, again, it's The Rock again, because, like I say, it's just the same shit. But as a character, I think he's funny. I think he puts those good little jokes in. I had a joke at the beginning, which was my favorite. I can't remember what it was now, but because he says quite a few, but some jokes that are just like you actually look at it like, yeah, that was cool. I get what you did, and it's just I think as a character he's great. I think he's what's the word friendly. I don't even know. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like
he's charismatic, isn't he? There's a lot of personality to him.
He's likable. That's I mean, he's a likable character. He's someone that you would enjoy being with. And he's even when which point is it where he just goes, I'm out, and he dives in the water. Like, it's just things like that. You're just like, yeah, that was like, do you know what I mean? And it's relatable in that sense of like how people would say things as well. And I guess because it's 2016, like it has a lot of modern humor. But I think The Rock plays him so well. I think he sings great. I think he just the little things that he goes, I'm out, like that kind of stuff. The way his voice is, I think it's all done very, very well. I think the mannerisms of him as a character as well, when he flexes he moves his pecs and stuff. I think it is The Rock, so I can see why they put him in the live action one as well. But I don't know. I'm not happy that they're doing a live action.
Yeah, with live action things, I mean, I don't agree with them anyway, full stop. But I agree with you in the sense that there needs to be a sense of like nostalgia for the film that needs to be there inherently.
And the thing about remakes and stuff like that is like you said, there needs to be a sense of nostalgia. It needs to be warranted. There needs to be reasons for it. Like, even if it's remember Psycho? There was obviously. They did a remake. It was shit. I never watched it, so me saying it's shit, I'm just going off what you're saying.
It's shit. It is shit. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was warranted in the sense of like, okay, well, let's make one let's make it color. Like, there were reasons for them doing it. So as much as it was as bad as it was, like, you could at least look at it and go, okay, well, here's our reason for doing this. I guess Moana's would be like, wow, actually, we could see The Rock doing it live action. Our reason for doing it now is then, I guess, you could tailor it to that, but I just think there needs to be more reasons to do a live action remake, whereas a lot of these Disney ones are just kind of like, well, I'll watch the original. Like,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like I'm gonna do a band comparison now. It's like Motley Crue when they said like we were gonna retire, and then almost immediately they were doing a stadium tour in the States with Joan Jett and Poison and Def Leppard, and then they reformed and did new music, and now they have a new guitarist, and now so they've never been away, is what I'm saying. They've never like
yeah.
fucked off, and it's the same with Moana. It's that
It's
the
weird
film came out in
because
yeah.
I was going to say we've had literally a Motley Crue reference in 2 videos.
Yeah, it's gonna
That's what
start.
it's going to turn into.
But it's the same with this one. Like this came out in 2016. It was a big film, as Disney films go. It's the reason that they've done Moana 2. It was one of their most financially lucrative ones. It was all over Disneyland, Disney World. I think the identity of Moana has never kind of gone away. It's always been present. Hell, we've had a sequel this month. They've just released Moana 2. It's still in the zeitgeist. People are still aware of it. And then in less than 2 years, we're going to have a live action remake of it. And I know like 10 years have passed, but this shit was announced like what, 2, maybe 3 years ago?
Yeah,
It's insane. And to me, it's just, I think The Rock's pushed this. I think a big part of because he was going to be in Black Adam. He was in Black Adam. It was all geared to be part of the DCEU, which fell on its ass and completely fell apart. So The Rock really doesn't have any like big tentpole film that he's signed up to right now. So I'm guessing he probably went, right, I want to get a live action of Moana going. Let's do this. Absolutely pointless. And you can't tell me that people would rather go and see that than this. Like, look at the animation in this, and the fun and the humor and the things that you can do with animation.
I can understand The Rock pushing it because it's his Disney break, it's his character. Think about whatever her name is that played Alice in Wonderland, and like that's her character. She probably she's definitely got a picture of Alice in Wonderland framed on her wall somewhere in one of her many rooms. But there's a picture somewhere. But it's that kind of like, this is me. It's a nice thing, and I think The Rock is probably looking at it going, this is the character was. It's a Disney movie, and in 10, 15, 20 years it will become a proper classic because it's so I do see that. I think the fact that they're doing a sequel has ruined that, and I do think the live action remake has ruined that. But yeah, I mean, I guess if it was me and I was in it, I'd do all I could to push it. I'd be like, yeah, go on. Like, I want to keep doing it. I'm in a Disney movie. Fuck it, I'm a Disney legend. Like, that's what you want. So I can see why.
But I mean, this goes for all the animated into live action remakes, but some I just think, a lot of them I think, what is the point? But certainly with a film like this, I think there's just so much that you can do with animation and the imagery of it and kind of the slapstick quality to it and the larger than life feel to it and the, breaking the laws of physics and whatnot that you can do with something that's a cartoon or animated, that I feel is just going to be significantly lost. If we're going to compare like Aladdin real quick, that live action version of Aladdin is absolutely abhorrent. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. After I watched that, I was like, I'm refusing to watch any more of these live action versions. Yeah. But I don't know if did you watch that live action version of that?
No, I've watched clips of it. I've seen I watched half of it. That was it. I watched half of it with an ex-girlfriend who was like, it's really good. You need to watch it. And throughout every scene, I was going, what the fuck is going on here? Why are they doing it? And she switched it off and was just like, you're ruining it. I was like, no, Disney ruined it.
Yeah. But I don't know if you got to the Prince Ali scene with Will Smith, but if you compare that and the staging of that and how it feels in live action compared to everything's happening, a second here, a second there, the zany antics of Robin Williams and how fast the camera can move, how quickly you can change into something, and the visuals that you get, it's night and day. And I feel like Moana is a very similar film to that. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, it will be the same movie because there's no, I mean, they might surprise me, but there's no way I can see it being kind of like, oh, they did this instead in a good way. It will just be the same thing, but live action.
Yeah. And you'll get the sea lion clapping fans that go, oh, I want to pay and see the same thing again. It's like, stop it. Stop doing this. This is why Disney keep making them.
To be fair, if Ariana Grande toured, I would pay to see the same. That's
different.
I would agree.
But similar to Aladdin with this, and I don't think this is hyperbole. I think that yeah, you had like celebrity voice actors in a lot of Disney films even before this point, but the one that kind of put that on the map, I feel, was Robin Williams as the genie, and he was able to bring his larger than life stand up persona really effectively to Genie. They were essentially animating the character to Robin Williams and what he was doing in the recording studio. And I think to a similar degree, not to the same extent, but you get that with Dwayne Johnson as well. The Rock as this character, that, the mannerisms, the kind of, let's say like the egotistical nature to him, but the bravado, the charisma, the personality really comes through in the character of Maui in such an effective way. And he is funny and he is charming and he is like, oh yeah, look at the bard, look at this. And you can imagine him like back in like the WWF, WWE days, like strolling out to the ring. They even had like his signature, I can't do it, the eyebrow raise that the Rock does.
Yeah,
they had that in there too. So I think it's certainly in terms of like modern Disney characters, Maui probably is one of the best. I like that the only example of this within this film, but it's nice that they still managed to integrate it in some way, is the traditional animation on the tattoos. The filmmakers were originally deciding whether to do the whole film in traditional animation, but quickly realized that it would be better to do it through CGI. I'm kind of inclined to agree, maybe, because it's a princess thing. I think you probably could do it in hand-drawn, but it's like what we said with Tangled, right? Whereas like, yeah, I could see this in 2D, but what they do with the 3D and the computer animation is astounding. And I think with the water and the hair, and it was probably the right decision.
Because the thing is, when the water kind of, what is it does when it kind of encases them like a bubble?
Yes,
it gives it displays so much better in 3D.
Yeah,
than that's one scene I did, because when I was watching it, I was thinking, how would it look in 2D? And that's one thing that I thought, you know what, that's class. Like, you wouldn't get that from 2D animation.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments, and I do love how they bring so much personality to like an inanimate object, is where Moana as a toddler, after she like saves that little baby sea turtle, the sea kind of parts a little bit, and then the sea becomes a personality. Really, it reminds me of the magic carpet, how you get all the emotion from it. It's where she does like the confused head tilt, and then the water also does that. It almost like, I love when they do that, and you can see the reflection of the sea creatures in the water surrounding her. You see like a sea turtle just swimming around the outside of the water, and the music. I was like, yeah, wow, this animation's really, really something. I guess I was going to ask you a question about the water, actually, because it seems very, very convenient when this Deus Ex Machina water will help them out, and when it doesn't. So they're almost bound to this boat. When Moana falls overboard, the water chucks her back on the raft. Same with Maui. But then there's moments where they're in peril and the water isn't helping them out. There's moments where the water, almost like a turbo engine, blasts her through the water. Like at the very end where they get to Takara and it's a very near miss, the water kind of helps her and pushes her like really far forward onto land. I'm like, why couldn't you just push them? But you wouldn't have a movie. I get it.
Well, yeah.
But why couldn't it just push them all the way to where they needed to be as soon as she got Maui?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's one of those, like, imagine the water as a character, and then they turn around and go, why don't you push us there? Like, well, I just thought you should find yourself first, really. Like, you know what I mean? I was doing it was for growth, character development.
Yes, I know. Yeah, I just question it. I know that's probably like me, the equivalent of saying to like a Lord of the Rings fan, well, why didn't they take the Eagles to Mordor? And then you have like a 26-page dissertation as to why they couldn't take the Eagles to Mordor. I get it. I've had arguments like that before. But yeah, it just felt very convenient when the water helped them and when it didn't. So I get it. It's not a huge deal. It's fine. Let's think of some other characters then.
It's like the water being a character, and then they turn around and go, why don't you help us? They go, it's because character building.
It's the will of the Force.
You need to learn.
Yeah. Hey Hey's pretty fun as an animal sidekick, I suppose. Voiced by Alan Tudyk again. He's back. He's in all of these films. My
favorite is, what's the crab called?
Tamatoa, yeah, I was going to say let's talk about Tamatoa. He deserves to be in there.
The reason is not just because of him as a character, but when he basically goes disco mode, doesn't he?
Yeah, like the fiber optic underwater.
Yeah, I was sat there just being like, didn't expect that, but okay. Like
very Princess and the Frog a little bit, isn't
yeah,
it?
it was
At the
cool.
end of Dr. Facilier's song, how
Yeah.
everything goes all neon and
Oh
club
yeah,
night.
it was great, and I thought he I thought that was just a brilliant character.
Because honestly, I don't think I've seen Jermaine Clement in much. He was in What We Do in the Shadows, and he's done various voice roles in like animated films and stuff like that. But he has such a recognizable voice. But the first time I watched it, I loved that villain song. It was so out there and zany. It was like, what are we doing? But the voice, I love how he adds like loads of David Bowie inflections into his voice, which I don't know if you caught that when you listen to it. He's like Maui man, and he like does that kind of David Bowie thing. Also, it's almost like if David Bowie and Tim Curry had a love child. There's bits of sort of the animated films that Tim Curry did with the characters, like the organ from Beauty and the Beast Enchanted Christmas, that creep in as well. It's a wonderful mix of what the fuck is going on, what are we doing, but it somehow works. It feels needed for that part in the film, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. But that's what I like. I like those moments where you go, what, why, what are we doing? I think they're great, and I just think it makes it's a standout part of a movie, and I think sometimes you do need that wackiness, and this movie has that level of wackiness that you need. It's not a serious movie. I feel like it's one of those movies where to the characters it's serious, but to people watching it's fun, it's funny, and you're going, yeah, cool. And then I feel like it's one of those things where a character could die and you'd be like, you'll be fine. Like, it's that kind of vibe that you get, but the characters themselves, they're like, no, it's deep, it's parody. Like, yeah, but yeah. It's that kind of thing, and I think it delivers it very, very well.
I actually wish we could have seen more of Lalote, the like the underworld, the realm of monsters, because you get like these cool, like this fucking like twitching demon creature thing that like comes at Moana, and you've got like these Venus flytrap creatures and bats and God only knows what, and like this is a really cool world. I wish they'd have spent like a little bit longer there, just because I wanted to see more of it. But I guess that's a villain song with Tamatoa in a way. He's not really the villain of the film, but
I didn't see it as a villain song, but yeah, I kind of see what you mean.
Let's talk about the music for this then. So, I mean, this was huge, like especially the main song of this thing. Was it? I've been. How far I'll go? I forgot the name then.
I don't know. To me, the main song always seemed like "You're Welcome." That always seemed like the main song.
That one too, and I think going back to sort of the Genie comparison, that is Your Friend Like Me song, isn't it? The completely zany song, the high energy one, where the personality of the voice actor really comes through. I love the visuals in that scene, though. It seems like it's a blend of loads of different kinds of animation. It almost reminds me of like you go see like a puppet show or something, where you'd have like someone would have like a cardboard cutout of the sea and they'd be moving it left to right at the front, and then you'd have the puppets behind it.
Do you ever get the Hercules vibe? Where they're on the vases and they've got the pictures, they move, and
I do from the tattoos, from Maui's tattoos. I do.
That's what I thought at first.
But the music's outstanding to this for me. I love how they bring that Polynesian culture into the music. It's always great. The music, you've got a few people working on this. You've got Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton. It seems like every musical that comes out now, his name's attached to it. You've got Mark Mancina doing the score and some of the songs as well. And I'm going to try and pronounce it. No, I'm not going to try and pronounce it. Some other guy doing the music. But I think it all works. You've got Mark Mancina did the score to Brother Bear. So you've got that kind of like tribal feel to it really coming through in the soundtrack. Favorite song for this for me, I mean, all of them are great in their own way. My favorite song, and this is also my favorite moment in the film, it's a very, very short part of the film, and it's Know Who You Are. The song is 1 minute 12 seconds, and it's the background that I've chose for today. I was going to have it be Motunui the island, but I thought I've got to go with my favorite moment. It's where Moana has her Moses moment and the sea parts.
Yeah.
And it all goes quiet in slow motion, and her hair's like billowing in the wind, and she's slowly walking and the lava monster's like fucking scrambling after her. And she's like, I have crossed the horizon to find you. I'm like, oh, that's when the Disney chills kick in, that moment. And I wondered if they would today, but they did.
Well, the weird thing for me is like you're well. Obviously, I knew the song. You're well. I'd heard that. I feel like just you can't really avoid that song.
Yeah.
But it was very sort of like, no, this is a good song. But when I watched it in the movie, I was like, this is really cool. I think it's also because of I knew it was going to happen because it was a very obvious thing where he said, like, I think she said, thank you. He went, oh, you're welcome. And this is where the song comes in. And I just think it was great where it was, the delivery was great because I think it felt very like they did it as a point of, you know what song's coming. Like, it felt like that. I mean, obviously, if you'd watched the movie before all the kind of crap, you wouldn't know that song was coming. But it felt like it was that kind of poke at you've heard this, you know what's coming. And it felt kind of show tune like.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and I think that was great. And like you said, the visuals are great in it. And it's weird. I always hate saying like my favorite song is, this one or whatever. It's like if someone says their favorite Van Halen song is Jump, I'm like, you don't like Van Halen. But it is. And I think it was done very well, and the scene was great. And yeah, but the thing is, what is the song? You have mentioned the name. She sings right at the end.
We Know the Way.
Yeah. So the thing I like about that is, I mean, it's a great song.
But is it How Far I'll Go? Which one? Sorry.
Oh, where
are you talking about the Voyaging song, or it's like I've been staring at the edge of the water?
No, where she says the tide is rising. Right. Basically, I don't know. This might clarify. There's a meme that I saw, and it's got the clip. And someone was like, I can't help but hear this in a Scottish accent. And it's her saying, when the tide is always fucking rising. Now, that's what I hear. And I just think it's great. But what is it where she's staring up and the waves are going around her?
It's this bit of the film, isn't it? The bit I'm talking about where she walks towards Takar.
Yeah.
And she offers the heart up to the giant fiery demon monster. It's Know Who You Are.
Is it Know Who You Are? But there's just, I just always think back to, and I can't unhear it. I don't know what she's saying, but I hear her in a Scottish accent, the tide is always fucking rising. That's all I hear. I don't know what she's saying. So in my head, she is literally saying that. I don't know what she's actually saying. That's the thing.
I don't even know if we're talking about the same part of the film, because I'm trying to think where you'd like misconstrue the lyric, and I'm not hearing it. But
yeah, it's near the end.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
But it's you know what? The thing is, that song stays in my head. But...
Oh, I think I know which bit you're talking about. Yeah, no, it's I Am Moana. It's the bit where she sees the her grandma comes back as a Force ghost.
Yes,
and it's a reprise of
it's a
reprise of How Far I'll Go.
Yes, yeah.
But fucking rise. Yeah, I can hear. I know which bit you're talking about now. I've got it.
What does she
I don't
say?
know. I don't know what she sings there, but I can understand how you can hear
exactly. But in my head, she actually says that, and I kind of don't want to know what she actually says because I like living in this reality. It's great, but I love that.
We got there. We figured it out.
Yeah, but I love that because obviously I'm reminded of that. But it's a not an I want song, but it's a celebration song. That's it. It's that celebration, the end kind of. And I think that's great, but I would say You're Welcome because it just the lead up to it, everything, yeah. But I hate saying my favorite is like one of the biggest ones. I hate it, but yeah, I think the lead up is great.
And the song is basically a big elaborate distraction for Maui to get away, and she's caught up in the fun and the celebratory nature of the song. And he ultimately, can we talk about that? By the way, he seals her in a cave. I forgot about that. Like he puts her in a cave and moves this huge boulder in front that she would never be able to get out. That would be her tomb. And he's going to leave her there.
Let's also mention that she was 14 in this. So The Rock has trapped an underage girl in a cave.
Yeah.
Just saying, that's what he did. In 2016, remember when you trapped an underage girl in a cave? Yes, I do. That should be on his resume.
I like when you said, like, oh, he's just so likable. He's wonderful. I'm like...
yeah. So this is, yeah. Aside from that.
He's a monster. Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Throw a dartboard for like best song in the film for this. Yeah, you've got that one that you mentioned. I've just forgotten it. You're welcome. It gets stuck in your head. Ironically, I forgot the name of the song there, but it does get stuck in your head once you've heard it once. So my favorite part of the film is the moment I mentioned where she's face to face with Takara and everything goes into slow motion and the animation is gorgeous and the sort of like the reverb on the vocals. Disney chills kick in every time. It's one of my all-time favorite Disney scenes, and I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's the sense of someone standing up in the face of, you know, almighty terror and evil. It's like the light versus the dark. I don't know what it is. All of these kind of like almost biblical fairy tale like imagery of good conquering evil and whatnot. I just love the shot where it's just like bearing down on her like against all odds. But also the song, it's got that misheard lyric in it that you mentioned, I am Moana. That is a huge pivotal part of the story where, you know, she realizes her identity. I like characters like an Obi-Wan Kenobi type figure, like that sage character coming back through visions and being that spiritual guide to the character. Almost like, is this actually happening or is this all internally happening? And I guess you could say that with Star Wars until they made it
You
where,
could say that
no,
with
this
Joker
ghost is
too.
actually there. Yes. Well, I was going to say you could say that for Star Wars. You can't really because Obi-Wan is absolutely there on Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back. So maybe that's not a good comparison. But I like that. The imagery of her coming back as like that, like manta ray looking thing is just absolutely gorgeous. It's a rousing moment. It really is. It hits you in the feels, those Disney feels. And I've seen this film a whole bunch of times, and it still gets me there. And if any film can do that, but if an animated film can do that, it's doing something right.
It's the thing about this. It's definitely, you know, you could definitely make a Kingdom Hearts world out of it, easy. You know,
100%. And this should be the voyaging Pirates of the Caribbean type
yeah,
world, like At World's End was.
yeah, exactly. It should. I think it would be great for, you know, for a Kingdom Hearts thing, because again, it's a fetch quest. It's, you know, you just go on that journey with her, and I think it's great. And like you said, it could be that voyaging thing, because in Kingdom Hearts 3, when you had Pirates of the Caribbean, you went across the whole ocean. I think again you could do that with this, and you could just have so many cool, quirky, random characters in it, and have random, cool, heartless who like I think this is a movie that feels like a Disney princess classic movie.
I think the Heartless could look like the Kakamora with like the coconuts and like sort of like the tribal paint with like the spears. I think that could be
Yeah,
cool. And you usually get two bosses, right? Imagine boss number one is Tamatoa, boss number two is Tekar. That would be fucking awesome.
but
The Keyblade could look like his hook. Oh my god, there's so many
yes,
possibilities.
that's a good. Yeah, I didn't think of that. The Keyblade would. Do you know what? It's one of them, right? I would be surprised if they didn't put this in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Dude, the keyhole that it is the fucking heart of Tafiti. And
See, it
oh,
all makes
oh my
sense.
god, it's great.
It all makes sense. I think, yeah, as I say, I think this will work really well, because it is a Disney princess movie. It is a very it's what you'd want from a Disney classic. We keep going back to what makes it a Disney classic, but it's everything you'd want from a
This
Disney
is
classic, I think.
100%.
And
Yeah.
the thing is, it's a rewatchable movie, because I think a lot of them, I can't remember which ones I said I would go back to and which ones I wouldn't, and when I would, but this is a movie, like I said, I wouldn't mind going back to it like in a week or two. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
The only reason I won't is because we're doing this, and I'm just going to keep them like that. But yeah, I wouldn't mind going back to it, because I think you could see a different perspective every time as well. It's a rewatchable. It's a timeless movie. I don't think there's no references, are there, of anything that you think, that's kind of its time. It's just
There's one, and I hate it, and I hated it back then, and I hate it now. It's where Moana's like, "You will board my boat," and she like thrusts the oar in Maui's face, and he takes the oar and he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna, you know, give you an autograph," and he picks up the rooster and he starts writing with it, and he just randomly says, "When you use a bird to write an autograph, it's called tweeting." I was like,
yeah.
oh, could have done without that.
Yeah.
But we will
Okay.
get a
Yeah.
lot more. We will get so many dated references and dated things in our next movie that we'll be reviewing.
Well, the thing is, it's very timeless. It's very.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's rewatchable. I'd watch it literally like in an hour or so again. Like, I think you'd see a different perspective every time, because the thing about like Snow White, I can come back to it over and over and over again. The thing about this, you could come back to it over and over and over again. I think, yeah, it has that staying power. It doesn't need it. I don't want a sequel. I don't want to watch the second one because I think I like that. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, it's done. They're all Voyagers again now. Maui's on their side. Peace has been restored to the land and everything's good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if Ariana Grande wasn't in Wicked, I would never watched it. Like, we don't need it. We like The Wizard of Oz. It was cool. Why we stop doing things?
Yeah, you've watched it. I still haven't watched it yet. I might get round to
watch it again just for one reason.
I pretty much agree with all of your sentiments, really. I think definitely if you need someone to direct your Disney movie for almost guaranteed success, please just get like John Musker and Ron Clements, because they are the absolute saving graces for me with Disney. There's, of course, other great directors and other great filmmakers that have worked on these films, but when you look at their body of work, The Great Mouse Detective, Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, Princess and the Frog, and this, I mean, that's 7 for 7 as far as I'm concerned. I know some people might say, oh, you know, this one's not as good as that. For me, they're 7 tremendous films under their belt right there.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. Yeah, so it brings all of those sensibilities in that we all view as this is what makes a Disney film. We have that argument almost every week, don't we? When I say argument, I don't mean that we're actually arguing with each other. We're usually in agreement with each other of what constitutes a Disney film. What are the ingredients that have to be in a film to make it feel Disney?
When did that question start for us? Because we knew that for a long time. Then it started getting to the point where we went, does this feel like a Disney movie?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to look through the catalog.
I do genuinely believe it's that staying power, isn't it?
Is it Black Cauldron? Maybe we felt like that a little bit.
Yeah, I remember the thing about Black Cauldron that'll always be one of those things is, in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel like a Disney movie because we love it so much. It's quite a bias.
It's a free pass, yeah.
But,
yeah, definitely.
But the thing about Black Cauldron, I think the reason it feels like a Disney movie in a lot of places as well is because it does have a lot of those timeless traits. It has a lot of those things where you could watch it endlessly. But again, because it's so Lord of the Rings fantasy-like, I think a lot of people would look at it and go, is it really a Disney movie? So a lot of it does depend on your perspective, but I think the thing that makes a Disney movie is the timeless stuff, because what you've got to think as well is, like, I mean, I think the older you get, the more kids' movies you do watch, but you've got to think, when you're a kid and you watch a movie and you watch Snow White, you watch Cinderella, you're like, oh yeah, kid movie's great. It's fairies and princesses and shit. I think when a movie still has that in, 2 years time, 3 years time, 4, 5, 10 years time, and you're still going, yeah, but it's great. That's what makes a Disney movie. I think when you never grow out of it, because the thing about, you could easily sit there and say, oh, I like this movie, and people go, oh, it's for kids when you're a teenager, right? But when it's a Disney movie, you never really felt like that. It's always like, yeah, but that's great. And I think that's the thing that Disney classic, the fact of classic, it's a classic movie that'll always have, yeah, but that's a classic. It's great. And I think Moana has that.
Yeah, no, I 100%, it's got all of the archetypes in there that you come to imagine. It's a very simple narrative of good triumphing over evil, a sense of identity, which is quite prevalent in a lot of the classic Disney movies. The songs, the structure of it fits that kind of Disney Renaissance Broadway style. And on top of that, the animation is just absolutely gorgeous and stellar. Yeah. Really fun characters. It's really got everything. It really has.
The animation, though, hands down, this is the best one we've seen animation-wise.
Would you say out of modern Disney or out of all of them?
Out of modern Disney, 100% the best, because Zootopia was great, but I don't know, there was just something about the way, again, without sounding creepy, the way her feet go in the sand and stuff. Like, I think
you are going full on Tarantino right now.
Yeah,
aren't you? It's just...
I know, but honestly, like, it did look amazing, and the water, like the way it bubbled around them,
the colors and everything. I
think, honestly, it's out of all modern Disney, this is hands down the best animated, the best looking one.
I think I could probably agree with that. Out of the CGI era Disney films, yeah. Not to take that away from Zootopia, I thought that was absolutely
Yeah,
incredible.
it was
A
still
lot of them
great.
are. A lot of them are in many
I just
ways, but
think the thing in this Zootopia, I think, had a lot of hair and stuff like that, and stuff where it would stand out. But I think,
environments and whatnot. Yeah,
yeah, this had a lot of simplistic stuff that you don't think would stand out over Zootopia, but it actually does.
yeah,
I think it's the roundness sometimes with the way the bodies are animated that help the curvature on them. I think just the simple things that you wouldn't think about. I think they come across so well that makes the movie. Yeah, I think it does top them all in terms of
yeah,
animation.
yeah.
Chicken Little might be a bit better, but yeah.
Oh God, don't remind me of that film. Yeah, God, I keep looking at the background for this video, like that scene. I'm gonna have to watch that scene again afterwards. It's just, I don't know what it is about it. I remember the first time I watched it, I was just blown away. Like I was getting like a little bit misty, like just when animation's that good, like just the music, the combination of everything. I can't put it into words how I feel with certain scenes like that. Um, there's a lot of Disney films where I have moments like that, but to me, that was just an iconic moment to me. Even just the visual of that, where you just got someone so small and insignificant standing up against evil. Yeah, really good stuff. Is it all going to be undone by Moana 2? We will find out. It is in cinemas now. As you mentioned before we went live, it has made its budget back by the looks of it, and probably including the marketing on top of that as well. So I'm sure that will do very well. It's only been out one weekend.
It was always gonna do well, though, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, that's why they made a sequel. Moana was one of their most profitable ones of recent years. So yeah,
that's why they make Frozen 3, Frozen 4.
I feel like in many ways this movie, there might be some good ones on the horizon. There's a few that I haven't seen actually in the remaining Disney classics, Moana 2 included, of course. This is kind of the last hurrah for me for a while. We talk about peaks and wanes, and I feel like over the last few weeks it's built up again, hasn't it?
No, it has.
Would you say from Tangled and Wreck-It Ralph? And I know we disagree with Frozen, but I can understand why people view it as a classic.
Oh yeah, it's
all of that. Yeah,
it's because Elsa's hot. That's why. That's the reason.
There is going to be a shift now to sequels and maybe sort of lackluster Disney animated classics. I'm still hoping that there's something going to, catch me off guard. And maybe going back to some of these, I will have a completely different opinion on. A lot of these I'm basing off an opinion of watching it once many, many, many years ago. And my opinions can change on film. So next week, we enter the sequel era, a film that I think is going to be incredibly dated, but we'll find out. Number 56, Ralph Breaks the Internet.
I forgot about that.
When did this one? I'm guessing this was 2017, wasn't it? Probably just the year after. Yeah, I think it was. I can't see on the back of the case, but yeah, this is going to be our next one. I remember having not so great opinions on this. And then again, I had not so great opinions on the first one until I rewatched it for this retrospective and kind of fell in love with that movie and fell in love with the ending of that first film. So I actually can't remember how they get these two characters back together, but I'm going to imagine
I do remember
some kind of bullshit way.
I do remember a really good character from it. I can't remember exactly who it was, but I do remember a really good scene in it. But yeah, it was not anything on the first one.
That being said, I don't remember a lot about it. I remember the scene where Disney were like, look at Disney Plus streaming service and all the things that we own. I remember that scene, but I don't remember the specifics of it. I don't remember the villain or really the plot or anything like that. So it will be like watching it for the first time, I suppose.
It was Space Jam 2, though, wasn't it? It was the same thing. It was marketing for Disney. Space Jam 2 was marketing for Warner Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, look, thumbs down. Exactly.
So that's going to be our one next week. I've been trying to think, like, in terms of timings for things. So I think we've worked it out. I think the week before Christmas or the week of Christmas, I'm not sure, we'll be talking about Raya and the Last Dragon. So we almost got Frozen 2 on the same week as Christmas. We almost did.
Hold on. No, Frozen 2 is on my birthday, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
Happy birthday.
No, it's like 2 days before, isn't it?
It's close.
I'm happy with that. I like Frozen, so yeah.
But yeah, we're getting through them. We're almost done. We need to think about our next retrospective. So we'll have a conversation about that at some point. I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's commented. Brian, we've got Nicholas in the comments as well from earlier who said, I just watched the sequel. Don't keep us in suspense, Nicholas. Let us know what you thought of it. Was it any good or was it not good?
What is it like? Moana dies.
Oh no! Well, at least they won't make a Moana 3. They probably will if it makes a lot of money. But let us know your thoughts on Moana. Is it one of your favorites of the modern Disney era? What do you like about it? Characters, songs, or maybe you really dislike it? Anything regarding Moana, do let us know. And please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. We're obviously continuing this Disney retrospective probably into, I think it's either the month of January, but then we've got those 2 to finish off from the US list. So probably looking into February, we'll all be done with these Disney films. Then we'll be moving into something new. I've got a lot of video ideas and video series and other retrospectives that I want to do on the channel when we come to 2025. I will be going live with Everything in Middle-earth later this week for some kind of Middle-earth related video. I think it's probably going to be talking about War of the Rohirrim that comes out soon. My tickets are booked for that, so we'll have a review on that in a couple of weeks. And yeah, then we'll be moving into Oscar season. A lot coming up on the channel, so please do hit that subscribe button. And thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. We'll see you guys on the next video. Take care, everyone.